WNYC.org. Think about what is the amount you want to give. Think about what the station means to you. Pick the number and give. Thank you.
WNYC is supported by Mount Sinai. Using leading research and clinical trials, experts at the Mount Sinai Tisch Cancer Center deliver personalized treatments for patients. Learn more at mountsinai.org/cancercare. We find a way, Mount Sinai.
If you believe democracy requires a free press, your station is WNYC, 93.9 FM and AM 820, NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Marketplace is supported by Odoo, focused on providing all-in-one open-source business management software with fully integrated applications for every business need. More at odoo.com.
Taxes, junk bonds, and the business side of global warming. We report, you decide. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Betterment, the automated investing platform that helps make it easy to be invested for the long term. Learn more at betterment.com. Investing involves risk. And by JLL. JLL uses technology and data-driven global intelligence in its assessment of the commercial real estate market to support its clients. JLL.com. See a brighter way. And by Indiana University's Kelley School of Business, developing tomorrow's business leaders through the nationally ranked Kelley Direct Online MBA. More at iu.edu/online MBA.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Ryssdal. Wednesday today, 6 March. Good as always to have you along, everybody. 2 items to top the program today. 1, Jay Powell took a quick trip up to Capitol Hill today, delivering the Fed's semi-annual monetary policy report to Congress. A couple of granular tidbits in what the chair had to say, financial regulation and bank capital reserves, to be precise. Nothing really earth-shattering, or we'd have told you. Item number 2 is this. It is not, to be clear, news. The 2024 presidential field is all but set, which means, thanks to former President Trump, the central bank is all but certain to become a political punching bag once again. So Matt Levin gets us going today with this primer on the political independence of the Federal Reserve.
Don Cohn worked at the Fed for over 40 years. He says that Fed officials really didn't bring politics to the office, except for that one guy with the Obama bumper sticker on his car.
So it is interesting to me that you clocked this, that you noticed that there was an Obama bumper sticker on his car.
That should tell you, Matt, is it was highly unusual.
While Fed governors are appointed by the president and approved by the Senate, they serve 14-year terms, and you basically have to have a major scandal to get thrown out. Congress set it up this way partly because they don't trust themselves to run monetary policy.
Politicians are worried about the next election, so they're going to push the economy forward in advance of that election,
rather than doing what's good for the economy in the long run. That being said, politicians have tried to influence the Fed. Peter Conti Brown at UPenn's Wharton School says Trump wasn't the first president to publicly attack a Fed chair.
George H.W. Bush didn't have a Twitter account, but he did have a press conference, and he even called out, sort of a clap back to Alan Greenspan in his State of the Union, where he said interest rates are far too high.
Greenspan was unmoved, but Sarah Binder at George Washington University says it's a mistake to think the Fed is completely immune from politics, especially when Congress can audit them or saddle them with more responsibilities.
The Fed needs to make sure that they keep Congress on its side, even though the Fed has to make these pretty tough decisions.
That may be why Jay Powell answers all those questions from Congress pretty politely, even if the questions themselves can be pretty impolite. I'm Matt Levin for Marketplace.
Speaking of questions to the Fed chair, Mr. Powell was asked at one point this morning whether he and his colleagues were actually going to make an announcement that there had been a soft landing in this economy. No, was the short answer from Powell. But on the way to that glide path, the Fed has been and is going to be looking real hard at the labor market. The February unemployment report comes out on Friday. JOLTS was this morning. That is, of course, the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey. Turns out the openings number didn't really move much, but people leaving their jobs to find new ones, that number is now below where it was in the before times. Before, if you remember this, the Great Resignation. Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman spent his day talking to people about what the labor market might be trying to tell us.
We started to see a slowdown in the middle of last year as post-pandemic hiring faded and higher interest rates started to bite. But then in December and January, the economy added nearly 700,000 new jobs in just 2 months. Who knows why? Honestly, maybe the weather? But in any case, economists don't expect the trend to continue. Nick Bunker at job site Indeed, which is a marketplace underwriter, says most of the evidence points to
a gradual cool down in the U.S. labor market.
Now, that doesn't mean it's getting frigid. Job postings are still higher than pre-pandemic, but
compared to, say, 2 years ago, employers are facing less competition when they're trying to hire workers. So there's fewer job opportunities right now and less wage growth.
Meanwhile, consumers are a bit more on edge these days.
We did see an uptick in the percentage saying that they were concerned about the job environment.
That's the Conference Board's Dana Peterson, reflecting on the group's latest pulse taking of U.S. consumers.
That could reflect the fact that real incomes may not be rising as quickly, and so people are thinking to themselves, well, I definitely need to work. But then they're also hearing bad news about some big layoffs among a variety of companies.
The Conference Board also surveys company CEOs, and Peterson says their plans for employment shrinkage in the coming year are a bit worrying.
1 in 5 CEOs saying they're looking to shed workers. That's a warning signal, especially since most of last year they were holding on to workers. I think there's something in the air from CEOs that consumers may be picking up on.
So far, though, layoffs aren't a big concern, says Robert Frick at Navy Federal Credit Union.
Unemployment claims are still really low, and even long-term claims aren't very high. So what's happening? How can all of these people be getting laid off, and yet all these other numbers look just fine?
The answer, he says, they're getting new jobs pretty quickly. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.
Wall Street today, traders shook off that case of the yips they had yesterday. We will have the details. Let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial is up 75 today, 0.2%, finished at 38,661. The Nasdaq took on 91 points, about 0.6%, 16,031 there. The S&P 500 grew 26 points, about 0.5%, 51.4 there. We heard earlier from Kristen Schwab about the end of the middle-class retail era, so let us look into some of the stores she mentioned, shall we? Macy's, the once iconic department store brand, lost 1 0.3% today. The Gap, which owns Old Navy and Athleta, shed 4 0.7%. Foot Locker, which today reported a loss over the quarter covering the holidays, dove 29 0.4%. I'm sticking with Dove. Bed Bath & Beyond, now owned by Overstock.com. The combined company trades under the name of Beyond Inc., up 2 0.7% today. Bonds up, yield on the 10-year T-note down 4.10%. Definitely Dove. You're listening to Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is currently looking for individuals in a variety of career fields who are interested in building a career and joining an inclusive and unique culture. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers. And by Baird. Baird strives to attract and retain top financial talent, providing stability and continuity for clients. More at BairdDifference.com. And by the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, a nonpartisan organization dedicated to raising awareness and accelerating action on America's fiscal challenges to build a brighter economic future for the next generation. Learn more at pgpf.org.
This is Ira Glass of This American Life. And during the pledge drive, perhaps you have wondered, who are these people who actually donate? Right? Like, chances are you're hearing the sound of my voice. You do not donate. And perhaps the thought has occurred to you, who are these people who would send money to a radio station that will stay on the air even if they don't send in their money? And I want to tell you, you know who they are? They're people exactly like you who are volunteering for no good reason other than sheer idealism. Like, they know they don't have to give money. They know that the radio station will be here tomorrow and next week, whether or not they call the pledge line or go to the pledge website. They know that, as you know that. And then they go one more step and they just think like, well, there's no consequence if I don't do this. I just want to do it because they believe in it, because they feel a sense of idealism, because they feel like, okay, that seems fair. If you haven't taken that jump, think about it. Here's how you pledge.
You pledge by calling 888-376-9692. You can also go online to WNYC.org and click on donate. I'm Sean Carlson here with Kaya Wright. That's an especially important message in an election year, right? You know, we contribute to something and it's kind of this like outside of yourself kind of idea and things that are larger than yourself. You know, you can vote, you cannot vote if that is your choice, but you do it because you have a sense of civic duty. You're doing your part, right? You're being involved in your democracy. You're doing your part in asserting yourself in the way that is available to you. Think about it like that when you contribute to public radio. Yes, there are thousands of people who contribute to public radio, but you are doing your part in joining everyone else that is doing that too. And together we make it work, and that's the beauty of it. Just in the past few minutes, Tamily in the Bronx, Jessica in Brooklyn, Katie in Brooklyn, Tony in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, William in Charlotte, North Carolina, Constance in New Canaan, Connecticut. These are all folks who have just given in the past couple of minutes. Join them in doing your part. There's no contribution that is too small. What matters is that you do contribute. The number is 888-376-9692. You can also go online to WNYC.org.
And we really have to underline that point. I mean, there's no contribution that's too small. Just participating. That is what is the most important thing here. Whether, however much you give, that's secondary. The participation, the fact of participation is what makes this work, because we pool whatever that amount is with thousands of other people who are also making the choice to participate, to say, yeah, I'm going to be part of the community. I'm going to do my part to keep the community strong. And through that, you become absolutely the largest, most reliable part of the funding for what you're listening to. It's really a wonderful model, and it all just involves on enough people, thousands of people saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to participate. The average monthly donation at WNYC is about $14. If you're looking for something to say, how do I participate? That's a good starting point. But whatever it is, whatever amount it is, do it now. Now's the time. Help us get towards that goal by having more people participate. 888-376-WNYC. That's 888-376-9692, or go to WNYC.org.
Hi, it's me, your dog. I just wanted to say a quick thanks for leaving WNYC on while you're at work. I wish you never went to work, of course, but we all have our jobs. You do, I don't know, whatever it is you do, and I do my job, which is to bark at passersby, chew on your delicious socks, and not go number one until you get home, no matter what. But having WNYC in my life makes my workday a whole lot better. WNYC connects me to the larger world in a way I can't get just by sniffing it. And for that, I'm truly grateful. There's just one thing. I really think it's time you become a member, because you depend on WNYC too. And while I love you unconditionally, the cat is really not being cool about you not being a member. What? I didn't say anything.
Support WNYC because we rely on you too. Here's how to help.
Here's how to help. Call 888-376-9692. You can go online too to WNYC.org. Think about the pets when you contribute. But honestly, if anything, for me, and just listening to that, it does reinforce the idea there's any number of reasons why you might be tuned to WNYC. Mm-hmm. The news, the information, the entertainment, the laughs. One thing that was really poignant for me during the pandemic was just the companionship that public radio provided to plenty of people. And they say so when they contribute. Whatever your reason may be for listening and being a part of this, that's the reason why you should call Contribute. That is the reason. Call Contribute right now during this winter pledge drive. We're trying to tick down the number here. We're trying to get about $10,000 between now and 7 o'clock, so the clock is ticking literally. 888-376-9692 or WNYC.org.
Give as much as you can give, but if you give $13 a month, we're going to sweeten the pot with that WNYC hoodie. It looks great. It feels great. You'll know, hey, I have done my part, and I can show off to the world that I have done my part if you become a sustaining member at $13 a month. And that's going to support whatever, as Sean said, whatever is the reason you listen. There's so many reasons to listen, but whatever it is, it requires your support to keep going. So now's the time. 888-376-9692.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Ryssdal. The Federal Reserve's Beige Book came out today. It's periodic and anecdotal look at this economy. Here's an item from the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis. It's a quote, unseasonably warm weather hurt businesses catering to winter activity. Firms in retail, accommodation, and entertainment saw lower revenues across the district. Most guests, said a hospitality company in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, canceled due to lack of snow. This is having a devastating effect on local businesses, which, if you're running one of those local businesses in the upper Midwest or in the Northeast, where it's always and also been unseasonably warm, that means you got to think creatively. Marketplace's Henry Epp is on the winter tourism adaptation beat today.
On February 12th, Kelly Probst and her board made a decision. The nonprofit's Copper Dog sled dog race in Michigan's Upper Peninsula would not happen this year. There just wasn't enough snow.
Looking at the forecast, looking at what our trail conditions were at the time and what was required for us to run a safe race. And it was apparent it just was not going to happen.
Normally, this race attracts mushers from around the country and thousands of spectators the first weekend of March. Calling the race off 3 weeks ahead was a gamble, Probst says. But on race day, she was right.
The weather here was in the upper 40s, sunshine and wind.
Terrible conditions for snow. Making that call early, though, she says, saved the organization tens of thousands of dollars on banners and pennants they didn't print, hotel rooms they didn't fill. And there's a good chance they'll have to make tough calls like this in the future.
Reliability is a thing of the past increasingly.
Justin Mencken is a climate scientist at Dartmouth College. As the climate warms, he says, winters just don't have as much consistent cold and snow as they used to.
And so what that means for the winter sports and winter tourism business model is that it's getting squeezed into a shorter season.
And so businesses are trying to squeeze revenue out of every snowy day. Lindsay Delorier is president of Bolton Valley, a ski resort in northern Vermont. She says they've brought in new snowmakers.
Being able to make more snow faster, more efficiently, has been incredibly important to us.
They've also invested in summer options for additional revenue, a wedding venue, and mountain biking trails. In northern Michigan, Kelly Probst held a scaled-down dog race last weekend. Instead of a miles-long trek, they hauled in snow to create a short track and held what she calls drag races.
He put two teams up against each other with two dogs and raced them down the road, and it was wildly successful.
There was food, bonfires, a beer tent, a smaller crowd than normal, but it was fun, she says. And now they know what to do in future years if there's not enough snow. I'm Henry Epp for Marketplace.
Taxes are on my to-do list for this weekend. Full disclosure, taxes have been on my to-do list for the weekend for about a month now, but you know how it goes. For all you self-filing taxpayers out there, there's a development that might be of some use. The Internal Revenue Service has released a pilot of its new Direct File program, the long-awaited free in-house IRS tax filing software. Dylan Matthews got a chance to check it out. He wrote about it for Vox. Dylan, good to talk to you again.
Thanks so much for having me.
So give me your gut reaction to Direct File. What do you think?
I give it like a solid B. So I think as software, it's very clean. It looks very nice. It's very easy to use. What it doesn't have is a lot of features. But if you have a simple tax situation, it can handle it.
Why has it taken the IRS so long to do this? Because there are private competitors, as we'll talk about in a moment, that have been in the market for a very, very, very long time.
So the reason it's taken so long is those very private competitors. I think the first ideas for doing internet tax filing came around in the late 1990s when the web was still very new. The George W. Bush administration had a serious plan that they put together to do online tax filing for everybody. By that point, though, H&R Block, TurboTax gained enough market share that they had serious influence, and they spent a lot, hundreds of millions of dollars over the years on lobbying to ensure that there was not a IRS software competitor to their services. To try to justify that, they helped set up something called the Free File program.
Right.
So this was an idea where they would offer to provide free services to people below an income threshold, so that sort of lower income people wouldn't have to pay.
But you have to go hunting and pecking on the IRS website to find that, right?
You do. So I think a revealing statistic here is that only fewer than 3% of eligible taxpayers have used that program. And that's partly due to these companies, that they've done things like try to hide from Google.
Is it technically hard for the Internal Revenue Service to do this? I mean, what are other than the lobbying and the hundreds of millions of dollars, which is not to be understated. I don't want to blow that off at all, because that's actually a not small political issue about how the government works. But are there technical reasons why the IRS hasn't been able to do this?
So it might be a little more complicated than people assume. For one thing, you need this to be really secure and for the privacy protections to be really strong. The other thing that I think makes it tricky is just how complex the tax code is. I went to the Treasury Department and met with a few developers who were working on this, and they showed me this giant, it was maybe like 5 or 6 feet wide map that they made that they called the fact map. And the map was of every fact you need to know about someone to do their taxes. Hundreds and hundreds of facts. Wow. How many kids, how much time did you spend with visual. The kids, on and on and on. And this is before you get into things like deductions for mortgage interest, where everything gets even more complicated.
Yeah. The specter here, and you talk about this in the piece, is healthcare.gov. The last thing the government needs is another website that rolls out and falls flat.
Exactly. And I think that came up a lot when I talked to these developers as an example of what they didn't want to do. That was a website that had to roll out for the whole country all at once and didn't have time to experiment and test. And it was a complete disaster. 6 people got healthcare on the first day that it was up. And
is that actually right? 6 people?
That is literally true. That the 6 people went from going to healthcare.gov to being enrolled in health insurance as of the end of that business day. Oh, man. So that's what they didn't want to do.
Right. So let's get back to where we started. You give it a solid B. You do say at one point in this piece, this cannot compete with TurboTax. So let's take the best lens on this that we can. Good start, maybe, for the IRS offering its own free direct file system?
Yeah, I mean, I think many of my old teachers graded on a curve, and I will admit that I'm grading on a curve here to a degree. But I think one of the more modest goals that people involved in this told me they had was you should be able to file your taxes online without using a private company. And I think they did meet that goal for a significant number of people, and that's maybe a more accurate way of looking at what they're trying to do.
The subhead on Dylan Matthews' piece says, "It's not perfect, but it's a start." Dylan Matthews is senior correspondent at Vox. Dylan, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Marketplace is supported by Buyside from the Wall Street Journal. Buyside's reviews and recommendations help consumers decide how to spend their time and money at WSJ.com/buyside. And by Sonar. Used by millions of developers, Sonar ensures that all code, including code written by AI, is secure, reliable, and maintainable. More at sonarsource.ai. And by Microsoft Visio, helping users create powerful visuals to bring their best ideas to life with ready-to-use templates and thousands of customizable shapes. Microsoft.com/Visio.
This final note on the way out today, yet another product we need because why? Binance, the world's biggest cryptocurrency exchange, is, you might remember, in some trouble. The company and a co-founder have pleaded guilty to money laundering and paid $4+ billion in fines. But the marketing shop at Binance working overtime. In recognition of International Women's Day, I'm not making this up, Binance has come up with a perfume. It's called Crypto, all caps, Ode to Binance is what it says on the bottle. It's a gimmick, yes, but come on, man. Our media production team includes Brian Allison, Jake Cherry, Justin Dueller, Drew Jostad, Gary O'Keefe, Charlton Thorpe, Juan Carlos Torado, and Becca Weinman. Jeff Peters is the manager of media production around here. I'm Kai Risdall. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is APM.
Something happens when you turn on WNYC. Well, not right at first. First, you just hear people